Craig, one thing you mentioned, I wanted to ask you about sort of how repo could help with like deleveraging moments, especially during periods of market stress. Immediately made me think of Aave and everything that's happening there, trying to restart those markets. Um,
Yeah.
how do you think like a mature on-chain repo market would help in a situation like that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's a great example. Like, for instance, you because you had this sort of whole secondary market that started going around with the debt tokens and the swaps, a lot of like what Fluid was doing. But that was fundamentally built on trading out of your position. There's a lot of situations where you don't want to trade out of a position. You want to keep the same position. You just need the liquidity right now.
Mhm.
And so that a mature repo market or a mature repo facility would have let you do that. Okay, I need my ETH right now, and I'm willing to go and post, whatever it may be, either off my balance sheet or that's even in Aave, some other debt token, whatever it may be. I'm willing to go and repo that to get the ETH that I need for my obligation over here, or to post this additional collateral, or to pay this loan back so I don't get liquidated, or whatever it may be. There were a lot of folks
Mhm.
on different sides of that. Like that's a prime example. Everyone was happy with their positions. Then this black swan situation comes about, and um folks met like if folks had the option, everyone probably would have loved to have kept their positions and maybe paid a little bit of interest for it or something, but just kept things going. But you have a general liquidity dynamic, which then causes all sorts of problems,
Mm.
where people are selling. Now you have assets that are selling off. Now you have interest rates that are spiking. Now you have people that are getting liquidated that otherwise would have never been liquidated. Like you have this whole kind of cascade. You have a depegging risk that's going on, and now you have pressure on all the LSTs and the exit queue and things like that. Like none of that had to happen. Um, like not that repo solves everything, but it would have solved a whole lot in that situation. And you run into the same thing with like these short-term liquidity facilities, like with the ETFs. There's a lot of interest with ETFs, with folks that are managing large treasuries of ETH, Solana, stakeable assets, that would love to have all of that stake, but they need some kind of repo facility essentially that's going to go and guarantee them that they'll be able to have the liquid right away, even if something's in an unbonding period. And you could take the same thing in the redemption queues in RWA. It's the same thing. It's
Mhm.
something's in a redemption queue somewhere. It's either being unstaked or it's being redeemed, or you're waiting for the Aave situation to play out. But you need the liquidity now, and you're just going to pay a little bit of interest for it as opposed to selling out of your position on a secondary market. So I think the last thing I'd say is this because of how Morpho is designed, it's where I've seen this kind of deleveraging concept outside of obviously like the Aave situation, probably the most, because you have situations where you may have vault curators that are going and they have to balance their liquidity situation and they have to assign LTVs that like liquidity is a massive thing in the back of their minds, in addition to the riskiness of these various vaults, and how much they can allocate is all dependent on the liquidity profile of different assets. And so they can give a higher LTV and they can do a higher allocation in the Morpho markets when the liquidity profile increases.
Mhm.
And so, because what'll happen is the liquidity situation dries up, and the Morpho markets are doing the ticking interest rate situation that they do, and now people's trades are blowing up and people are at risk of liquidation. And they need to be able to delever that situation. They need to be able to get their liquidity either out or get additional capital in. And so how would you do that? And so like we currently have like within our product set offer deleveraging facilities for folks, not just necessarily against our credit token, but also for other assets because of this dynamic. And what that'll do is it'll actually increase the capital efficiency of the market overall, because now the Morpho mark because the vault curators feel confident in what they're allocating to in the liquidity profile, thanks to Repo, they can now actually extend more liquidity into the system. It doesn't have to stay trapped because of the difficult redemption windows and so on and so forth.
Gotcha. So, I mean, the traditional repo market measured in the trillions. Matteo, how big do you think on-chain repo could get in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, in the next 5 years, I would say, I'm pretty confident to say that it would reach the trillion figure, at least 1 trillion figure. It's something that it just makes sense with the current pipeline of firms and traditional players that are looking into on this kind of on-chain applications. So I wouldn't be surprised to even see it like before the next 5 years. And that's gonna be, as I mentioned before, it's gonna be kind of like an hybrid approach. So we're gonna see more and more, kind of like less differences between like CeFi and DeFi, but more a united approach to work together on improving this kind of situation. And and so yeah, I would say it's something reachable within the next 5 years.
Okay. And Craig, for you, give me one reason why it will get there and one reason why it will not.
I think it will get there because of those dynamics that I mentioned and things that are already happening. You're already seeing a lot of these platforms go and release these types of facilities. You're seeing people like us and other market participants be involved. And so that's the bull case, is this is necessary and it's already kind of begun to happen. And these facilities are being offered. Why it won't happen, I think, is because is that necessarily actually, I guess, repo in all cases? Or are people going and implementing this in a variety of sort of different ways?
Mhm.
I think one of the benefits of centrally cleared repo for the banks is that it's like something you can do like clockwise, and you can automate it to an extent, and you can use it as part of your treasury management strategy, and capital's flowing, and it's all governed under the same agreement, and there's standardized terms. And that's to get our industry on that. And I'm not sure, like, that is a gargantuan challenge. I know that there's folks, actually my alma mater at Membrane, they're I know they worked on this to try to get folks on a standardized JIMRA repo form to try to kind of create this. But to create this sort of like standardized market in general right now is a extremely difficult thing to do. On-chain is probably one of the best places to start, frankly. But that's standing up and getting an entire ecosystem. You're basically starting a new exchange, or you would have one of the exchanges that would need to do it. That's a massive barrier to entry.
If you've been loving Bits and Bips, don't forget that the show is transitioning to its own feeds on X, YouTube, and your favorite podcast player. If you're not already subscribed to Bits and Bips on its own channels, go there now and hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with our twice-weekly live streams and Macro Meets Crypto breakdowns. Bits and Bips will only be on the Unchained feed for a few more weeks, so subscribe today to be ready for launch. You can get all the links at unchainedcrypto.com/bitsandbips.